What's up guys, Sean here, and today we're going to talk about Adam Conover getting destroyed by Joe Rogan's basic questions. Before we get started, I have a second channel. It's my media channel, Dude Monkey HQ. Please subscribe. I'm also on Twitter at IamSean90. That's at IamSean90. Give me a follow over there. Thank you to my patrons and my Subscribe Star subscribers, and the people who donate via one-time donation on PayPal. Your support really helps this channel continue, and I appreciate it way more than you know. Adam Conover is the host of the college humor turned true TV show, Adam Ruins Everything. The entire premise of the show is Adam confronting truisms, myths, and common misperceptions with facts, evidence, and data, thus ruining that thing. Now I want to get this out there up front. I don't have any issue with the premise of Adam Ruins Everything. I'm not here to criticize the formula of his show. I don't even care that he personally has a lot of left-wing political views. That's not what this video is about. That's not what any of my videos criticizing Adam have ever been about. My issue with Adam is that he purports to do a show that's all about telling hard truths. However, a lot of the time when he does these political topics, he pushes left-wing political narratives that are not true, but he presents them as pure fact. When I made my response to his gun control segment, which you can click the iCard to see, my criticism of him wasn't that he was supporting certain aspects of gun control. My main issue is that he was perpetuating myths about specific cases when the facts of the case run contrary to the media narrative he was pushing. I also took issue with the way he presented the Stand Your Ground law. Instead of debunking the myths and common misperceptions around Stand Your Ground, he did what every other left-wing media outlet does, conflated 3 different laws and presented them in the exact same way an anti-gun activist would.
Push legislators to pass in Florida. It says use of deadly force is justified to defend yourself in your home or car, even if you could run away.
Wrong, incorrect, inaccurate, you are mistaken. So the crack team of researchers at True TV managed to conflate 3 completely different and separate pieces of legislation and pass them off as one. First of all, not having a duty to flee in your own home does not come from Stand Your Ground. It comes from the Castle Doctrine. The second law that they're getting wrong in this presentation is Florida's self-defense law. Self-defense laws vary from state to state. In some states you have a duty to flee, in some states you don't have a duty to flee. If you live in a state where you do in fact have a duty to flee, what that means is even if you kill somebody in self-defense who was threatening your life, you can still be found guilty of manslaughter or even murder if a prosecutor can argue that you had another way out of the situation. New York would be an example where you have a duty to flee. Now, Florida's self-defense law, you do not have a duty to flee. And what that means is that as long as you are in a place where you are legally allowed to be, if you kill somebody in self-defense, you cannot be prosecuted for that. Now, the Stand Your Ground law applies to obvious cases of self-defense. It gives you a right to a Stand Your Ground hearing, which is a pre-trial hearing where a judge examines the facts of the case, and if it's obviously a self-defense case, the judge can dismiss all charges before trial happens. Again, this isn't about somebody holding political views that I might disagree with. It's about presenting yourself as a fact-based truth teller and then lying, denying, and obscuring the truth to fit your political agenda. Which brings us to Adam's appearance on Joe Rogan and this discussion about trans athletes.
About trans athletes,
it's a good question. I think we're really going to go through like a cultural change on how we think about that. It's morphing so quickly. You know what I mean? I'm very much, because I am of this opinion that there is no such thing as like perfect fairness, and when we make those distinctions, we're always choosing who to allow. And because I think we should choose to allow like trans people to participate in society, I'm for an inclusive approach where we're able to like find like a model that allows those folks to compete fairly in a way that everybody's happy with. I think that's what we should do. As trans athletes go, we could sit here and talk for 3 hours about like all the different ways that hormones might affect your body and might not affect your body. And I'm not an expert on that, and I don't want to claim to be, right? But a sports with trans athletes who are competing with with their gender, right? That is a sporting world that I'm more interested in.
Okay, so here Adam states his position clearly. He is interested in a sporting world where people are allowed to compete with the gender of their choosing, rather than in the category that they are biologically born into.
my point of view is that there's a reason, there's a distinction. There's a reason why we make the distinction to have male athletics versus female athletics. The reason is that males have a physiological advantage over women. So in most sports, most physical sports, we do not have males compete with females. The question becomes when someone who is male transitions and becomes female, do those same physiological advantages apply? And what is the evidence? Well, the evidence in competition seems to be that it shows that it does apply, particularly in weightlifting, rugby, mountain biking, power heavy sports.
Now, Joe responds to this by stating some of the cold biological facts about some of the advantages that men have over women, and he explains how those advantages don't go away when men transition to women. And this is how Adam responds to that.
Well, I disagree, and
what do you disagree about?
I've already my main point being the one that I already made, right? That I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field.
Now, Adam responds to Rogan by saying that the field of the sporting world isn't level anyway, and we arbitrarily decide what to include and what to allow in certain sporting events while excluding other things arbitrarily. But what Adam is referring to are differences in training methods, like some athletes might sleep in a hyperbaric chamber in order to get more oxygen in their blood. Other athletes might not do that, or they might not be able to afford to do that. And according to Adam, since that's an unregulated advantage in the sporting world that we don't touch or talk about, why are we talking about men or people who are biologically male competing against women? Because that's just an advantage that we don't account for.
My main point being the one that I already made, right? That I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field.
Now, I understand this point in terms of logic. Not everybody's going to have the same coach. Not everybody's going to have the same training regimen. But one of the issues with that is obviously some people aren't going to want the same coach. They're not going to want the same training regimen anyway. But the argument really breaks down when you realize what Adam's actually saying. Essentially, his argument is, we don't control for those variables, so why are we controlling for these variables? And what that argument basically boils down to is, since we don't control for all variables, we shouldn't control for any variables. And that breaks down for multiple reasons. One, the examples that Adam cited are debatable in how effective they actually are. Conversely, we have a lot of biological evidence showing us the differences between men and women, differences that would affect the sporting world. Increase upper body strength, increase bone density, increase reflex time. When you compare elite female athletes in their own sport to their male counterparts, they don't do well. They don't rank anywhere near the top, and a lot of time they're ranked near college level for the men. Adam knows this, and he can say he disagrees all he wants, but when asked straight up questions by Joe Rogan, his entire argument breaks down.
But we do make the distinction where we don't allow men to compete in women's divisions.
And I think that distinction may be breaking down a bit, right? And I think it may be time to break down that distinction a little bit.
At one point, Adam starts going into this left-wing spiel about how the distinctions between men and women are breaking down, and it's a good thing for society for those distinctions to break down. And then a few seconds later, Joe Rogan asks him if men should be able to compete with women in weightlifting, and Adam gives a hard no, because he knows there's a difference.
But we do make the distinction where we don't allow men to compete in women's divisions.
And I think that distinction may be breaking down a bit, right? And I think it may be time to break down that distinction a little bit.
So you think that males should be able to compete in the women's division of weightlifting?
No, I don't necessarily.
But they can if they transition.
First of all,
now I know I haven't pointed this out yet because I've been focusing on what Adam actually says, but you can see how much he's struggling answering these basic questions. Because Adam knows what the correct answer is, the factually correct answer, but he's focusing on delivering the politically correct answer.
First of all, and
to me, one of the most telling parts about this portion of the interview is how Adam consistently, throughout this 30-minute section, keeps saying that he likes to defer to the humanity of the people that we're talking about.
This is the kind of topic where I really want to make sure that I know the research and that I'm, also speaking to trans folks, in this conversation. But do think that when we're talking about an issue that affects those people, right, the first thing we should do is listen to those people. But my basic principle is, man, I just want to defer to the humanity of the people that I'm talking about.
Nobody is arguing against the humanity of transgender individuals, and Joe Rogan himself isn't particularly anti-transgender. He's just concerned about biological males competing against females in physical sports. Again, Adam's entire persona is supposed to be fact-based. He's supposed to be a truth teller, but he wants to defer to the subjective opinions of transgender people on an issue that they are deeply vested in. Look, I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody who goes through gender transition. I'm just pointing out that it's ridiculous and kind of insane that Adam, Mr. Facts and Logic, thinks we should punt this issue over to transgender individuals. They have everything to gain from coming down on one side of this issue. Scholarships, gold medals, endorsements, fame and potential fortune. We should be deferring to the scientific evidence to determine the answer to this issue, not the subjective feelings of people who benefit from us coming down on one side of it. Now, there's a second half of this video where the topic moves to children transitioning and Adam's support for it. Joe Rogan also destroys him with basic questions on this issue, but I feel like this topic needed to be condensed into one video, and if I'm going to do that topic, it will be in another video. If that's something that you want to see, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, that's all I really have for you guys today. If you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias. This has been me taking down Adam Ruins Everything after Joe Rogan took him down on the Joe Rogan podcast. Till next time.